Live, love, learn with Courtney. Welcome, evolutionaries. You are now watching Live, Love, Learn with Courtney, where we bring evolutionaries to the community. And today, the evolutionary that we have with us today is Miss Alexa Chanelle. And you already know, as evolutionaries, we assess, we plan, we do. So let's get into Miss Alexa Chanelle and what she has to offer us today. Welcome to the platform. How are you, sis?
I am doing so good. Thank you so much for having me. I'm just excited to speak with you and to share what I've been working on with everybody in hopes that, it spreads the word and we can keep moving forward because that's what it's all about, really.
Yes, and in moving forward, being a witness to your work, I know how hardworking and dedicated you are to what you do. So can you introduce the organization you have developed to the people?
Yeah, for sure. So I decided to start the Black Educators Collaborative, aka the Collabo. And there's two main reasons. One is because I became a teacher about 4 years ago through the New York City Teaching Fellows program. Um, Hey, Teaching Fellows. And ever since I graduated that program, I was really looking for a space where I can connect with Black educators, honestly. Like, who can I connect with? How can I, share support, resources? Because I was realizing quickly within the Teaching Fellows program that if you do not have support that extends beyond yourself, this profession can be extremely hard. And extremely taxing. And so that's one reason that, it's always kind of been in the back of my head. However, during quarantine, we were doing online learning. And I was like, I would love to just talk with educators about what they're doing, like educators outside of my building, like get some new ideas. And then unfortunately, we looped back into our cycle of, seeing Black bodies be dehumanized, killed, and traumatized online with Ahmaud Arbery, Breonna Taylor. We found about her around the same amount of time. Then we had George Floyd. Then we had Oluwatoyin Salu. It was just beat after beat after beat after beat of, this happening. And after that moment, I was like, nah, you know what? The time is now. And the time is now because we work in a field where sometimes we may be the only Black face. Or we work in a school where sometimes, like, since we are the only Black person, that all that falls onto us. And then unfortunately, I work in a school where we can address these kinds of issues and things that are happening in America. But I only imagine that there has to be other Black educators out there who are dealing with all this on top of, being a part of a staff or a school community where that's our hardships do not get the spotlight that it deserves.
Okay.
And how much pressure that must be to have to teach through that. And if you're teaching Black students and having to be the carrier of all that and not have a space to go and release.
So with that being said, what are some of the things that the Collabo has done already and plans to continue to do to embrace this realm of connectivity?
Right. So far, I have held discussions with like 30 plus educators, small group discussions talking about, basically how you feeling, how you doing. And then we go on and talk about how we can work together to liberate education, because that is the goal, period. But first of all, how you doing? How you feeling? What's going on? What's the dynamics? How y'all doing with this online learning? So we held discussions. We had a Connect and Collab Litnic over the summer where, we got the people who are in New York City, because there's a few educators who are outside all over the United States. So those who are in New York City, we had a Connect and Collab Litnic where we got to see each other face to face, socially distant, of course. And then we also held a back to school drive where we were able to provide 70 students with, the resources that they need to be successful in this school year.
Wow. So for the Collabo to have only been established just over the summer, you guys are making moves, girl.
Yes.
I love it.
Yes, because people right now are in a space where they're like, how are we moving forward? Because whatever we were doing in the past is not working. It's time for us to get together. Hey, the 20 somethings right now is our time to use our youthful energy, use this fresh out of college or not, just fresh out of new experiences mentality, and really start creating that change we want to see. Honestly. Yeah.
That's right. And I'm a little more seasoned, so I'm not fresh out of college, but I do
Either.
I do share in the new experiences aspect of it. And we are all experiencing something new with this pandemic. We are all experiencing some type of feeling when it comes to education, whether it's in the realm of safety, academics, engagement, social emotional learning, trauma, being able to restore what it is that has happened to us. And you already know I really focus on these realms of consciousness, academia, and economics. So that's what I kind of braced myself with. What would you say in just a few words that the Collabo really focuses on? So as you are expanding, you would tell someone, hey, you're interested in these things, you should be a part of the Collabo.
Cool. So first and foremost, liberation. So period. And liberation in terms of education, because that's my lane. So if you are somebody who's an educator, and when I say educator, it's not always just K through 12 teachers, principals, admin, professors, people who provide services like SOP, social workers. So if you are an educator in any sense, and you are have the heart for the liberation of education, which equals the liberation of our people, then you can come on over. That's the first thing. First and foremost, first word, liberation. Second word would be collaboration. Because like I said earlier, you can't do this work alone. So I may have a vision. I have a vision for the Black Educators Collaborative, but I cannot do it alone. And so if you are a person who can walk towards liberation in the spirit of collaborating, let's lean on one another, then let's do it. Collaborate and connect. So I guess the 3 words would be liberate, collab, and connect.
I love it. Liberate, collab, and connect. And as the Black Collaborative is growing and expanding, I am watching you network and build with other organizations like Black Influencers United. And as you connect and you expand, I see the Black Educators Collaborative working as sister organization to many powerful movements that want to liberate education, because like you said, this work cannot be done alone. And one thing that I admire about your work is that you realize that, and then you make sure that you hold people accountable for the things that we are saying we want to do. So being a part of the Black Educators Collaborative is, in a sense, a way for you to keep yourself accountable and then make sure that the generations to come are being supported in the ways that they deserve.
Yes, 100%, 100%.
I love it, Alexa. So do you have any theories for education for yourself? What's your vision for how we can liberate education?
I would start first with my understanding of like the community school model. I believe that if we can really get back to understanding that the school is a staple of the community, it's like doctor's office, post office, church, school, right? The school is a staple of the community. And so if schools are, if we can get back to schools being really integrated into their communities, I know that could be very difficult, and especially in huge cities like New York, where there's like so many students and families that we have to educate. But honestly, I would love to, move away to a smaller place and really try this out. But like, if we could get back to schools being the staple of the community, where we provide services that, not just students, but the families and members of the community need, that is definitely something that I think can lead towards liberation because liberating education equals liberating our people. So I think that is part of the step. And in terms of just liberating education in itself, I definitely think it starts with teaching the child as a whole person.
And just to stop you really quickly, the concept that you're discussing is called community control. And New York used to have it. We used to have community control. And I want to say in about the 60s, that's when it was like really big, and the communities really governed the decisions that the schools made, the families, the parents had a voice. The parents in the community lost that control in the city, and everything became run by the chancellor and the department, and there's a board that votes, and once they vote, the decision is made. It doesn't go out to the community. Outside of New York City and most New York State, the decision is made on a school level. Then the school brings it to the district. The district, whoever is in charge of finance or whatever else, they then determine it, and then it's voted on by the board and brought to the community. For us, it works opposite in the city, where the funds are allocated for the year. We are budgeted and line itemed what we can use our funds for, and you have a certain amount of money depending on the tax dollars. So the property value affects the money. Not only in the city, in the state too. So the amount of money that your homes costs affects the amount of money that goes into your schools. So essentially what you're saying is that you want to go back to this method of community control, where these issues that affect our children are decided by members of the community and no longer told and dictated to us. So what I see the issues presented in that is, one, why did they do that, right? So we have to figure that out. What was the root of that? But I love this whole concept of just going back to that and using our history to guide us there.
Exactly. I definitely feel like as a teacher, especially during this pandemic, often voiceless. And I feel like as teachers, we should be at the table. Honestly, I believe we have one of the most powerful roles in a school. And I think that sometimes we lose sight of that because we're so enamored with everything else that we have to do as teachers. We lose sight of the actual power that we should be, utilizing at our school, because we are the ones who are directly, most likely the only ones who are really directly, interacting with the community that we serve on an everyday basis for multiple hours upon a day. So when, I was sitting here during quarantine and all these decisions are being made, I'm like, have you ever been into a school? Like, like, have you been to school, like, for you to make these kind of decisions? Have you actually taught the children you think that, need to be taught this way? So this is, especially with the Black Educators Collaborative, is I really want educators all over, but even to scale it down to teachers, to understand that we have the power. So we should be doing research. Hey, if you want to talk about culturally responsive education, why am I waiting for somebody who hasn't been in a classroom for 20 years to do research on what works in the classroom? No, I should be doing that research to do that. To figure that out and publishing it. That should be my role.
To be a teacher in New York City, you have to have a master's degree. So it's not like you don't know how to conduct research or don't have the education to do so. It's about willpower and intent, right? What do you intend to do to serve your students? And I believe whatever it is that we require in our lane, we need to just evolve in it. And that's my growth, right? Because there are some of us who are like, hey, relationships, partnerships, and building, that's my lane. That's how I'm going to grow. Some of us who can jump into research and really dive in and pick it apart and share the knowledge and be open to it. There are some of us who are really good at curriculum development and being able to bridge curriculum. So what I believe is that we all need to do our part with what we're good at. So we have to learn about who we are, dig deep, and really figure out what it is that helps us to move and what purpose we were given and why we chose teaching in the first place. And then once we understand why we chose to become an educator, our passion and our purpose will then fulfill, right? Look, we in the den with Rebecca, right?
Yes. Yes, and that's exactly, part part of my thought process with the Collabo was, it wasn't just, yes, we do need a space to, lean on one each other, support each other, but it's also broken down into categories. What are you good at? Are you good at curriculum? Great, we have a curriculum sector. Are you good at research? Wonderful, we have a research sector. Do you want to be in the think tank for trying to start a school? Great, we have that as well. Are you just interested in, like you said, connecting teachers and doing the social emotion stuff? Awesome, pull up. It's broken down. It's broken down so that you have the autonomy to do that with like-minded people. So that was my exact thought process. And honestly, to attract people who think like this is what we need in order to, keep going. I know as teachers, we have a lot to do. We have so much to do. But this is part of the job that they don't teach us. And I really think that is for a reason why it is. I really think it's a reason why we are piled on with so much work that we can't get up to breathe, that we can't get up to actually the point of creating. We're just in the process of doing. But the great thing about education and the great thing about teaching is that we should be teaching so people can do, so people can create, not regurgitate and follow just a single line. It is to create. Education helps you create. It expands your mind. So if I am a teacher, I am now the professor. It is my job to, how can I further educate myself to further create better? So that as I'm doing this, my students also see like, yo, my teacher's doing all, that's a fault of mine, is I don't let my students know everything that I do, which I probably should start doing, because it's like, once you see like, yo, my teacher is doing all this stuff and creating while also teaching me. It's like, dang, okay. Let's teach you how to create, child. I'm a mirror. I'm your reflection. So if I'm reflecting, regurgitating information, that's all you're going to do. But if I'm reflecting creation, if I'm reflecting ideation, if I'm reflecting thoughtful reflection, child, you shall reflect that as well. Oof.
Yes. I love those goddess vibes. Yes, with the posters. We're gonna have to give you some dings, okay? Because the reality of it is that what you're talking about, what you're discussing, is turning education into a sector of evolutionaries. You want people who are true visionaries to be the ones that are educating our children. And that will come with a lot of turmoil throughout the years, because there are many educators who are just over it, who they're like, the union supports me, I don't want to teach anymore, that's it. But the reality is, if you get to that point, this is no longer the job for you, honey. It's time to move up. And maybe we need to create a transition field for people who are beginning to feel like that, and have them segue into other mundane areas where they get to not do as much. But the reality of it is that if you are an educator in front of children and you are molding someone else's mind, in the words of Dr. Adelaide Sanford, the mind is a very precious thing. And if you are going to have the audacity to tamper with it, you better make sure that you are feeding it with something nutritious.
Emphasis on audacity.
Yes.
That's a line.
Yes, I'm sure that's a paraphrase, but she used the word audacity, and I thought that was the most empowering and impactful part of it, because it's like, you have the nerve, right? You have the nerve to call yourself an educator, but you don't want to educate? How dare you? Get up and go. Get up and go.
Listen, I might need to put that on repeat on these days that I'm feeling a little low.
Right? You just got to remind yourself, why am I here? I chose this position, right? I chose this job. Why am I here? I love it, girl. All right. So with that being said, ladies and gentlemen, you have now seen and heard from the founder of Black Educators Collaborative, also known as the Collabo, Miss Alexis Chanelle herself. Thank you so much for coming on. I look forward to seeing your growth and having you again to talk about the wonderful things that the Collabo is doing.
Thank you so much. Peace to you. Thank you.
Have a good one, sis. With Courtney.
Now let me milk the most out of it. Let me use all my energy I can. I I didn't choose this job. I think this job chose me because I didn't think it'd be all this work. I did not think it would be all this, but child, yeah.
Yeah. Let's grow together.